All right, I know I'm putting this video out at a time when people are emotionally charged wanting the termination of CEO of Activision Blizzard, Bobby Kotick. My stance is I don't have to like the guy. I don't know the guy. But calling for one man's termination will not change anything. There's no guaranteeing that Bobby Kotick's termination, that his replacement would be any better than him. There's really no factual evidence to support his termination other than basically the emotional response to he makes a bunch of money and they just laid off a bunch of people. We agree that the optics are horrible. We agree that yes, he could have forfeited part of his bonus or salary to save these positions. But where we disagree maybe is that this would have changed anything at all, and that firing Bobby Kotick would do anything. My plea to you, to the gaming community, is to help with me accept some of our own responsibility for the bloat of these giant corporations. I'm off from Blizzard, Activision, uninstalling their titles on your computers or PCs or consoles. We have the power. Terminating one man might seem like a moral victory, but it will change nothing. They'll just replace the guy with somebody who might even be worse. We control the change. We can be the change we want to see. Now let's get into this video. What's going on, everyone? Jeremy here from The Quartering, and I've got a bit of a more in-depth video, or at least some more to discuss on the revolt, the current online trend to fire Bobby Kotick, the CEO of Activision Blizzard, after the layoff of 800 people. The nexus of all of this, of course, is the combination of both proclaiming record profits and then in the same call laying off 800 employees. The optics were just absolutely horrible. And most people would agree, even the most casual gamers, that this is an unfortunate situation. I've seen a lot of moralizing and grandstanding, though, in the recent weeks and days about how, well, this is Bobby Kotick's fault. This is the CEO's fault. He's the one, if he were just to make a little less money, then these people wouldn't have had to been laid off. The fact of the matter is, we don't know that. We don't know if their positions were even essential at the company anymore. There's no denying that Blizzard and Activision's esports departments are probably bloated and needed to be trimmed, and their termination is irrelevant in terms of the amount of money that Bobby Kotick makes. Now, this is not to be seen, or hopefully it is not my intention to defend the man. I don't know the man. I don't have an in-depth knowledge of the personal individual decisions he makes inside the company, but the fact of the matter is hardly anyone else does either. We don't know that he didn't stay up all night crying about these layoffs. We assume that he did it with glee. We assume that, well, Bobby Kotick makes a bunch of money and they had to lay off people, therefore we should fire Bobby Kotick. There's really no logic here. This is an emotionally driven decision, one that I don't blame people for having. But there's a lot more to this situation, and there's a lot better ways to get change other than just demanding they fire a man. I believe strongly that if everyone who wants Bobby Kotick fired and that is making videos about it or tweeting about it were to do just one thing, they could guarantee his termination in the next year's time. Now, I want to go over some of the articles that we've seen here. Some Activision staff and supporters want CEO Bobby Kotick fired. And again, this you can see right here in the subtitle. Raking in millions of bonuses for you and your C-suite buddies isn't leadership, it's theft. Well, it isn't theft, by the way. This is part of his pay package. This is symptomatic of a problem in the entire industry. It's not Bobby Kotick's fault that he's getting big bonuses. It's the board of directors' fault. It's the industry's fault. He may be the man who is the face of it today, But if we want to talk about real change, then the gamers themselves have to be the ones that initiate it. Demanding a termination from the man is irrelevant. It will be unheard because the man makes billions for shareholders and for the company itself. If people who were complaining, who would want Bobby Kotick fired, would do one thing, all right? One thing. Take a year off. Don't buy any Activision games. Don't buy any Blizzard games. Cancel your WoW subscription. Cancel your esports. I don't care if they're free to play. Just don't play them. If everybody watching this video and they shared it with somebody else, if you truly want Bobby fired, we control this. Vote with your wallet. We bear a lot of responsibility as gamers for these bloated salaries. Remember that the game industry has been growing at nearly exponential rates over the past few years, mostly off the backs of microtransactions, right? Let me ask you, this is a tough question. It's a lot of times it's tough to look inward, but have you bought microtransactions? Have you fed into this system? Because gamers themselves are the reason that these things exist. It's just the facts. If nobody was paying, it's fun to meme on a $2 reticle inside of Call of Duty, right? Or meme on $20 mounts. But if we weren't buying them, they wouldn't exist. Now, people seem to be waking up to the microtransactions and this sort of thing and fighting back. But I think that's a big reason you see a lot of these scaling backs. A lot of the positions that used to exist underneath this, basically, we're making infinite money, hire whoever you want. The more people we put into the system, the more money we make. Things have tightened up. Gamers are getting wise to it. People have stopped purchasing microtransactions. People are checking out of World of Warcraft or Overwatch or Call of Duty because of these things. But we, the gaming community, pretty much control whether or not Bobby Kotick stays there or not. If nobody buys Call of Duty next year, pretty sure the guy's going to be terminated. Now, some of you people might say, well, no, they'll just lay off a bunch. Just Bobby. It's everybody in the C-level at these companies. It's their board of directors. It's systemic problems with being a publicly traded company and trying to serve two masters. All right? Serving the investors and serving the customers isn't always the same thing. And I think in gaming, in particular, they are very different. Investors want infinite returns indefinitely. Gamers want good games. Those two things, unless you're Rockstar or CD Projekt Red, seem to be very difficult for some companies to do. Now, would a change in leadership increase the likelihood of that? No, we don't know that. Firing Bobby Kotick is nothing but a moral, irrelevant, ceremonial victory. It doesn't change a damn thing in the industry. If the next person that comes in, there's no guaranteeing they're any better or any worse. We see this with every time, if I allow me to get a little boomer-esque, when we talk about these horrible leaders in other countries and we've got to go over there and take them out. Yeah, well, who's next, right? There's no guaranteeing that the next person would be any better. So I would rather people focus their time and their efforts on simply, if you believe that Bobby Kotick should be fired, then you should uninstall any Blizzard application you have on your computer, any Activision application, and you should cancel any paid subscriptions you have. That's what I believe has a better chance of generating change inside these companies than simply tweeting about it. Especially when we're talking about a C-level executive who, by all accounts, is pleasing the board of directors with their amount of profit. You see, Game Workers United is calling for the resignation of CEO Bobby Kotick after the developer-publisher laid off 800 staff despite reporting record results. Again, this is why people are upset. Now, if they had to lay off 800 people and they weren't making a bunch of money, I mean, it would still suck. And this should not go unmentioned that I feel bad for those 800 people, and many of their terminations are the result of poor management. But there are many layers of management underneath Bobby Kotick that need restructuring. This is a cultural problem inside the gaming industry. Greed. Rumors that Activision Blizzard would announce hundreds of redundancies during the investors' call were proved correct last week when it announced it would lay off 775 staff. Upending 800 workers' lives while raking in millions for you and your C-suite buddies isn't leadership, it's theft. Well, that is just factually incorrect. States Game Workers Unite. We, the workers of Activision and their friends, have had enough. Join us in saying it's time to hashtag fire Bobby Kotick. The petition has gathered 3,822 signatures of the 4,000 it seeks. Probably has much more than that now. Again, many of the problems with Bobby Kotick seem to be that he makes too much money. Well, that may be true, but it is a systemic problem inside of gaming. We, the gamers, bear some responsibility for each and every one of those 800 people terminated. We were the ones buying all these microtransactions for years. We were the ones keeping our WoW subscription on just because once in a while you like to play it. Well, you don't get to then be outraged if you're still giving this company money. It's as simple as that. Again, raking in $30 million a year as Activision CFO, that massive income doesn't come from nowhere, the statement insists. It comes from the labor of his employees. Again, factually incorrect. Kotick's wealth is built from the stolen wages of his workers. Again, factually incorrect. Activision, under Kotick's leadership, gave $15 million bonus to CFO for changing his job title. That's correct. And then they have the gall to turn around and lay off 800 workers just days later. Again, optics. I don't disagree that this looks bad. I don't disagree that there needs to be change inside the industry. What I disagree with is that it's anybody else's responsibility but ours. We vote with our wallets. We have the lone power to change. Don't buy it. The company will wither and die. Activision has parted ways with with Destiny developer Bungie, and the latter assuming full publishing rights in Q3 earnings call. Activision CEO Cody Johnson explained that Activision's MAU were up sequentially from quarter two, thanks to the good performance of Destiny 2's expansion. Again, if you look at almost any executive of a billion-dollar corporation, their earnings will be significantly higher than an hourly employee. That's the way it works. If you have a problem with capitalism, okay, we can go down that road. However, Bobby Kotick didn't steal this money. Nobody was held hostage to give him this money. The board, shareholders, and gamers gave him this money. All right? So if we want to get rid of Bobby Kotick, it's not whinging and crying just to fire him because he makes so much money. Just don't buy the games, and things will take care of themselves. Again, petition to fire Activision Bobby Kotick garners thousands of signatures. 3,000 signatures. The campaign has been trending on Twitter, upending again. We, the workers of Activision, have had enough. In a series of tweets, the organization claimed that the workers who have been made redundant are far more valuable than Kotick. How could anyone know that? We don't know the individual titles of everybody. I could almost guarantee you that many of these people were probably bloat. Might be fine people, might be great people, might spend their weekends donating their time at the homeless shelter, and that is great. That doesn't mean their job was essential. And I notice a lot of people going to, as I see this article talking about Iwata from the CEO of Nintendo having his salary. This is a false equivalency. We don't know that Bobby Kotick having his salary would have changed anything with these layoffs. And while I commend Iwata, let me share you a personal story. When I was 26, 27, I had a great job. I was a director of marketing at a search marketing corporation, basically a internet marketing incubator. Times changed, and there was a time when we had to lay off almost 60% of our staff. I myself offered to cut my salary by $30,000 a year, and at 26, I was making $120,000 a year plus bonus. So I said, well, I had to cut 2 people from my team. So I said, well, can I just cut their salary, give up my bonus, cut my salary? And there was a director of operations who actually, she offered to do the same thing to save a couple of essential people she felt on her team. Both of our requests were denied. There were costs beyond our just flat salary that people incur. Human resources costs, insurance costs, all that sort of thing. So it's not so easy to just cut your salary. Now, from an optics standpoint, it would have looked better if Bobby Kotick had forfeited, one of his multi-million-dollar bonuses, all right, or cut his salary for a year. That would have looked better, but that would not have fixed what is wrong in the gaming industry. That would not have fixed the people that continue to prop up the microtransactions. And I'm not saying it's you, the viewer of this video, okay? What I'm saying is, vote with your wallet. Uninstall. Hashtag uninstall Blizzard. Hashtag uninstall Activision. These would be better consumer revolts than simply demanding you fire the CEO because he makes a bunch of money. That's really, if you want to take the emotion out of it, that's the most compelling argument I've seen. He said some things we don't like in the past, and he makes a bunch of money. Dennis Durkin got a big bonus. I don't disagree that that looks bad. But again, this is an industry problem. This is not Bobby Kotick's problem for reaping the rewards. Firing Bobby Kotick will not necessarily improve a dang thing at Activision Blizzard, and it certainly will not fix the broken AAA games industry. If I could make one plea to you, it would be that you do consider just taking a year off from Activision Blizzard products. That would be far more powerful than putting out factually incorrect statements and complaining that yet another executive makes more money than an hourly employee. I hope this video at least gave you something to think about, and maybe you can take it to action.